We are going to do just a very brief presentation to give you some background on our comprehensive plan update for the year 2040. And then we're going to stop talking and have you go out in the lobby and look at the boards and talk with us a little bit more about your ideas for the future, your vision, what you love about St. Paul, what we need to think about that needs to change in the future. So bear with us while we just give you a little bit of background, and then we're going to hear from you. So again, the agenda is just for me to kind of give you some overview. Nancy Homans from the Mayor's Office will be giving us a little bit of background on our history of comprehensive planning, the big issues that we've looked at in the past decades. Then I will talk a little bit about our process and some of the emerging trends and key issues that we already know are in front of us for the next 20 years. And then, as I said, we'll ask you to share your ideas and visions. Just a couple of words about the comprehensive plan. It is we are required every 10 years to do an update to our comprehensive plan. It is a citywide plan for the future. Our new planning timeline is for 2040. We are required to do this by the Metropolitan Council, but we like to do it just because it guides the decisions that our Planning Commission and City Council make for the City of St. Paul, and also for all of the neighborhood work that you all are doing at your community level. So this is big visioning, kind of the big ideas here, and we're really happy to have you here to help us frame those. So Nancy, you want to come up and...
Okay. Goodness. That's a beautiful backdrop for the comprehensive plan. Again, I'm Nancy Homans on behalf of Mayor Coleman. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of really the kickoff for what will be a 2-year process. I was a planner before I went to the mayor's office, so I guess I'm still a planner. Began working for the city in the early 80s, and I must say that I really didn't want to be assigned to the comprehensive plan, because who talks about comprehensive plans or cares about comprehensive plans? Or have you ever heard about anybody talk about it at a dinner party? It just didn't seem like the cool thing to do. And you read comprehensive plans and they all sound a little bit alike, and like, this didn't seem to be what I wanted to spend my career doing. Fortunately, I was assigned to work on them. And now the benefit of 40 years of hindsight have had the opportunity to see how that made a difference. I mean, the old yarn of, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. You can, as we look at the city as it has emerged and as it is today, and look back on the planning that we've done over the last 40 years, we can realize how the vitality of the city today was no accident. It was actually a planful response to the conditions of the time. And so I want to just talk a little bit about the 4 comprehensive plans that I've worked on over my career and how that shaped the city as a little bit of inspiration of please stay engaged with this process, because it does make a difference going forward. And you will be the cool guy at the dinner party, I promise you. So in the 1980s, as many cities were losing population, especially Rust Belt cities on the northern tier of the country, St. Paul adopted a comprehensive plan that said we were going to build 10,000 new housing units in that decade, that we were going to attract population, that we were going to grow. We stuck a flag in the ground and said we were not going to lose population, that we were going to grow over the next 10 years. And that shaped much of the work that happened in the city. It shaped the zoning code, it shaped the CIB, the capital improvement process, and we kept track every year. We did reports on how many housing units we built, and we got darn close to 10,000. We had a recession at the end of that decade that kept us from reaching that milestone. But we did grow over that decade, and it was intentional. And we did some changing to our housing conversation. Vic Rosenthal is here, and he can talk more about this than I can. But that was when we started to do shared wall construction and townhouses and condominiums, and said, we can't build 10,000 new housing units if they're all on 40-foot lots. So how do we, and it was also a time, if you recall, when interest rates were sky high and young people were trying to enter the housing market and weren't able to afford it. So how can we create affordable housing for a new population that we hope to attract in the city? So it was a yeasty time, it was a growing time, but it was a growing time intentionally, and we worked very hard at it. In the 1990s, we said it's not enough just to build housing units, but B, just to build them anywhere on any vacant land. It was a time to focus our growth and development along corridors. So that was when we started to talk about the riverfront as a corridor, University Avenue as a corridor, Energy Park as a corridor, Phelan Boulevard as a corridor. It was a chance to say we need to coordinate our growth and development patterns so that our transportation system and our housing system and our economic development system can all be mutually reinforcing. If you recall, that was also the time when many of the large industries had closed and gone away, and we were starting to talk about what does the new economy look like? What kinds of businesses are going to locate? And they were businesses that didn't need large acreage on rail yards, but needed to be on transportation corridors. So how do we shape the zoning and the capital improvement budgeting process of our city so that we see both economic development and housing development that is mutually reinforcing and reinforces our transportation and transit systems on corridors. So corridors became part of our development pattern. In the 2000s, we said it's not enough to build more development and build it on corridors, but we have to make sure we're also creating sense of place. So it matters that we have green space in the middle of these development patterns. It matters that we do historic preservation. It matters that we create places for people of all ages, that it's walkable. And so we began to do a lot more work around urban design, and you would start to see urban design standards working their way into our zoning code. And the riverfront became a catalyst for a set of citywide design standards that we adopted that guide development throughout the city. But that was kind of a big step forward in the 2000s. In 2010, the sort of the issue that worked its way into the process was sustainability. Economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, the sustainability of our way of life, of our balance of ages and incomes in our community. How does our budget manage to sustain the city and the growth over time? So that weaved its way into all of the chapters of the comprehensive plan in 2010. So now we're anticipating 2020. And we're looking forward to 2040. And so, where are the big ideas? What are the big ideas that are going to shape this plan? Some of those ideas are going to come from our analysis of trends and the data and our kind of the conditions as they are today. But most of them are going to come out of conversation with community, with people talking about how do we move through this city? How do we live our lives in the city? What worries us? What do we aspire to? What do we wish were better? If we're thinking to 2040, frankly, some of us are probably not going to be around. But what do we hope for our children and grandchildren in this city? And we really want the ideas that shape the plan to come out of that conversation. And you all are sort of on the front lines of that. You're the people that come to the first meetings. Yay. We hope that you will help us engage your neighbors and broaden this conversation throughout the community. And one of our biggest challenges is going to be make sure that this conversation reflects the diversity of our community. If the thought of going to a comprehensive plan meeting is off-putting for people like us that are kind of used to sitting in meetings, what about young people, people of color, people that have never participated in this process? We don't want to say what we want you to do is come to a comprehensive plan meeting. We'd like you to come to a conversation about our city and how do we make this a city that works for all people. So thank you so much on behalf of the mayor and all of us for coming today, for being part of that initial conversation, and we look forward to hearing your ideas as we move outside.
Thanks, Nancy, and thanks to Mayor Coleman. Some of you may have seen his op-ed piece in the paper, so we're really pleased that we have leadership that understands the importance of these issues as well. So my role is just to give you, again, some little bit of background and context for the comprehensive plan work. Since this may be a new thing for many of you, we'll kind of take it from the top and give you some background. So the comprehensive plan is a vision or a blueprint for the future of the city, really to guide future development. It's primarily a physical development plan, but we can never look at land use and water resources, any of those more physical things in isolation. We always have to think about the impact on economic well-being, the social connections that we have in our city. So while there is a focus on infrastructure and land use and the built environment, we really do look beyond that as well. We always have to recognize that history is very important. Nancy mentioned that as well when preservation kind of came more into our thinking. But we have to think about where we have been and the emerging trends, and I'll share a few at least that we recognize right now in just a couple minutes. The comprehensive plan, when it works at its best, and I think Nancy's summary has shown that we have used it this way, it does help us respond to trends that we're looking at, and I think most importantly really guiding that change, thinking about what is coming and how we are going to respond to it or get out in front of it and really shape it for the best for the city. And again, the last point there on the left is just that there is really a concern about the economic, social well-being of our community and how the comprehensive plan can kind of reflect that. There are 6 chapters in the comprehensive plan, and you see them listed on the right-hand side there: transportation, parks and recreation, housing, historic preservation, land use, and water resources. And we have a staff person who is in charge of each of those chapters, and they are here today. So as you are talking to folks out in the lobby, they will kind of make clear what they're working on. 5 of those chapters are required by state law for all cities in the Twin Cities to have in their comprehensive plan. The historic preservation chapter is not required, but it is one that is important to us in St. Paul, so it's one that we add. The 2010 plan, the existing comprehensive plan, was the first time that we had a preservation chapter in our plan, so we will have one in this next update, but the other ones are required by state law and then by the Metropolitan Council. So why are we doing this? Why are we updating it? Well, I think the first point is really the most important, is that we want to do it. We want to think proactively about the future of the city. We want to engage all of you in our conversation about where should this city go. So really, as planners and people who really believe in St. Paul, we want to do this and be ready for the future, be out in front of it. But it is our chance also to take a very careful look at our physical infrastructure, land use, buildings, streets. How do we want St. Paul to look and work in the future? And this is our chance to really frame that big of a question and give us guidance on that. And then, of course, the last point is that we're required to do it. But I think really the first point is more important, is that we really want to do it so that we can guide our growth, our planned growth in the best way. So there are already many of these trends that you are all aware of, and you could probably add to this list as well in your own experience, that will inform our work on this plan. They are really kind of framework issues that get us thinking about what do we need to plan for in the future. So, of course, rising energy costs and climate change, a big issue, and how does that really come down to the ground in our community, in your neighborhood, and to your house even at that scale. We have an aging housing stock and infrastructure that those both present not only financial issues, but also quality of life, neighborhood revitalization, neighborhood quality issues, livability issues, and we have a lot of aging physical infrastructure in our city. We have to be honest about the conditions of city budget and our city financial resources. Those are increasingly constrained. So we're being asked many times to do more with less, and that has implications for how we plan for growth. And changing demographics, I think, is probably the most important issue that we're wrestling with and trying to be proactive about. Our population is aging. It's more diverse in the city of St. Paul. There are significant education and income gaps that we want to address because all of those have implications for the built environment and how we're going to grow. So challenges, opportunities, I think they're kind of two sides of the same coin. So we've got a short list here, and again, I'm sure you can help us add to this list as we talk in just a few minutes. Equity is certainly an issue, and we're wrestling with how to address that really every day in our work, but how does it come through in the comprehensive plan? Our goal, of course, would be to reduce the disparities that we're seeing in job opportunities, income, home ownership, education, and how can we have city policy that will help us do that. Growth and density is a big one for us. The Metropolitan Council, the regional planning agency, is planning for us to grow, as are we. They project numbers, growth in household and population, and they assign numbers to each of the cities in the seven county region. So we want to grow, and we are planned to grow, but how do we do that in a built-up city? So there are some challenges. When you have very few vacant parcels left, it puts more pressure on land to be denser, and we know that there are some concerns in neighborhoods about that. But if we're going to grow, we have to learn how to grow in kind of compatibly with our neighborhoods. Economic development, we think we'll see an increasing focus on jobs, job growth, job creation, job retention in the city of St. Paul. And then we've got some significant large redevelopment sites. There are 3 listed here, but there are likely to be more in our next planning framework time over the next 20 years. But the Ford site, of course, is a major project that we'll be working on. The Snelling Midway site more immediately, the soccer stadium at Snelling and University, and then the West Side Flats. A couple of more, climate change, we mentioned that already, but how is the city resilient in the face of the environmental challenges that we're going to see, reducing our carbon footprint, especially in a built-up city? Designing a city for all ages, and many of you might have heard the 880 idea that we have here in St. Paul, that if you design a city for that works for 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds, it will work for everyone. That doesn't mean we don't think about 2-year-olds and 90-year-olds, but if you kind of think about 8 and 80-year-olds, if a city works for them, it is likely to work for everyone else. And so we kind of have that mantra now, but we do have aging baby boomers, a big bubble in our population, so how do we manage the needs of that community? Really fostering the next generation. Who is our future labor force? How do we engage them? How do we educate them? How do we keep them in the city of St. Paul? And how do they then contribute to our life beyond their jobs? And the new technologies, I think we can't ignore that we have some coming. They are here already. Some are coming, for example, the impact of driverless cars. How do we then design streets? How do we still design parking ramps, for example, if there will be fewer cars? So we need to think about some of those. So community engagement is critical. Nancy mentioned it as well in this process. We have staff expertise on some of these issues, but really the core of what frames this comprehensive plan update is your ideas and your vision. So we've got a few ways to engage people, and this list will get longer as we get into the process a little bit more. But we intend to we are having 3 kickoff meetings. We have another one Saturday morning, and we had one last night. So these broad kind of informational meetings to start off with. But after that, we will have focus groups with kind of key stakeholders in the community. We have a lot of passionate citizens and advocacy groups in St. Paul. We want to engage with them and talk to experts on some of these issues. We will do some one-on-one interviews or small group interviews with particular interest groups, and you can see some of them listed there. Some of them are decision makers, business leaders, important leaders of our new American groups, new American communities in St. Paul. We will aggressively use social media, so I hope you all gave us your email address, but in a minute there will be a slide here that has our website on, and everything will be posted on the website. We will be asking you questions via Open St. Paul, kind of a virtual community conversation. And then we will have general community meetings like this one at key points in the process. So it's what may sound like a long process, a couple years, but it's actually really fast in terms of the scale of these issues and the work that we need to do. So right now we are starting our visioning, our community outreach, gathering information, doing some background data gathering. Summer and fall, we will continue to meet with community groups to get your ideas. And please, if you have any groups that you're a part of or are aware of, and you think would want to have us come and meet with them, we are happy to do it. So just catch one of us out in the lobby and let us know. We have kind of a running list of people we can come and talk to, and we're happy to do that. Then starting later this year and into the winter of 2017, we'll actually start writing the plan and kind of regularly asking for feedback from the community as we start to create our new chapters. The Planning Commission and City Council will have a role in adopting this plan, so we'll be checking in with them. There is a committee of the Planning Commission that's kind of overseeing all of this work, so we will keep them informed as well. And then 2018 is really the year of very detailed community feedback on the plan, and then submission to the Metropolitan Council. Our City Council adopts the plan, and then we send it on to the Met Council, and it has to be at Met Council by the end of December of 2018. So we've got some in-house steps that we use. We will have a few open houses to get feedback. It will be on our website. And all of your ideas will really be the framework for how we continue to write the plan. So we will take your feedback very seriously. So we have boards outside that tell you about kind of summarizing the existing plan, some of the emerging trends that we talked about. There's a little bit more information about those. There is a board on the themes outside that will guide the plan. They are themes that are kind of given to us through the Metropolitan Council work: equity, sustainability, prosperity. I should know them all, but and you will see those on a board, and we'd like to kind of get your thoughts about how those relate to the City of St. Paul. And the questions on the right-hand side are the ones that are posted on the boards out there and that we would like to get your feedback from. And maybe you have already told us some things before the meeting started. What do you cherish about your neighborhood? We really want to get a handle on what works well, what do people love. But then also, what would you change about your neighborhood? Are there things that starts to get at the vision of how you envision a future for your neighborhood? What is your favorite place or thing about St. Paul? We have maps out there where you can put a dot on your favorite place. What spot in St. Paul has the best potential to be great in 30 years? So again, kind of thinking the physical environment, but where will we be great in 30 years? And what is your big or little idea? We want both of them. They don't all have to be big ideas. We're very interested in smaller steps of how we get to the big vision. And how can we get there, and what might stand in the way of achieving it. And then finally, what did we miss? We always want to know what else did you come wanting to talk to us about and to tell us about in your community, your neighborhood, your block, because we'd like to hear that as well. And here is our web information, the website where you will continue to see all of our updated work. And we will, with your email, we will give you periodic updates as well, keep you posted on what we're doing. You'll be able to see all of the results from the input that we get in these 3 meetings will be there, so you'll be able to see how your comments are kind of registered and how we're using them. So that is the end of my presentation. We have a few minutes if anyone has questions before we head outside and have a little bit more of a conversation with you. Does anyone have any questions or comments at this point? Yeah?
So I presume the plan will be online?
Yes. Yes. The current plan is online as well. The 2010 version is there. If you go on the stpaul.gov and the Planning and Economic Development site, it is there, yes. Yep. Yeah.
And I know there's past plans, you can reference those, but once it's submitted to the Met Council, then how is it referenced over the 10 years or 20 years, or how is it used within the city?
Great point. The question was, how does the plan get used once it's adopted? I should have said that. That's a really good point. So once the Met Council approves it, then it really is our plan, and they have kind of used the regional vision on how it fits in with their regional goals. So the way that we use it is to guide really public and private investment in the city. So the City Council, the Capital Improvement Budget Committee will use it in making financial decisions about the use of city resources. The Planning Commission will use it in terms of guiding neighborhood plans and other small, what we call small area plans. So it's really, I think of it mostly as guiding public and private investment. And so even though we don't have control over private investment, it is a message to the development community and neighborhoods that this is how we intend for our city to grow. So that's our vision, and we expect you to invest, in kind of in compliance with that. There is a whole set of, all of the district councils, the 17 district councils in St. Paul have their own plans, and there are also what we call small area plans that look at a smaller than a district council level plan. We are not changing any of those right now. We are just looking at the big chapters. So all of that planning work stays intact, stays adopted. Since those are plans that look at a smaller than citywide level, they tend to get updated a little bit more regularly anyway, certainly usually more often than every 10 years. So those all stay in place, and those continue to guide the opinions of district councils, input to the Planning Commission, City Council on neighborhood issues. But the big chapters are really what we use to guide our investments, city investments. And zoning, yeah, thank you. And all of, there are many zoning cases or zoning decisions, land use decisions that impact the zoning code, and those are always kind of referred against the comprehensive plan and the neighborhood plans. How does a change in a zoning district comply with the vision that we have for that neighborhood? So, yeah.
How does St. Paul's plan fit in with surrounding areas, South St. Paul, West St. Paul? Do they get together and have like a big plan?
Mm-hmm.
Plan together?
Good question. The question was, how does the city of St. Paul's plan kind of coordinate with adjacent jurisdictions or other cities around us? Actually, the Met Council has thought about that as well. They require us to send our plan to adjacent jurisdictions. So the cities that we share a border with, we have to send our plan to them prior to submitting it to the Metropolitan Council. So, and we get those as well. So that's our chance. I must say we don't talk to them a lot probably in the creation of the plan, but in the review of it, then we will look at Maplewood's plan or even the City of Minneapolis plan and think about, does it have impacts inside our borders as well? How are we thinking collectively? So we do that. And we also are required to send it to other jurisdictions that have some authority within the city limits. So the State Department of Transportation, the watershed districts, any group that has some kind of authority, they need to review our plan as well. So we really get a lot of input beyond just our city borders. So, great question. Any other questions? Yeah, Margaret.
Hi, thanks. I had, the other day we had a speaker and she referred to, or she said that they're referring to the people in Canada, Fort McMurray, as the first climate
Refugees. Mm.
And I thought, I mean, not to end on a downer note here, but I just was curious if we're looking at that as from a city standpoint, I believe we are, but then are we looking at that like from a more regional? Because I mean, I'm thinking of the implications of something like that could be, pretty big.
Yeah, and you mean in terms of just in-migration, numbers of people coming here, fleeing other?
Like in the event of, some sort of, I don't know, just really incredibly severe weather,
Mm-hmm.
or, like in that case, it's fire, but
Mm-hmm.
being driven, they're unable to put it out because of the weather. So
Right.
are we looking at those kinds of, plans? Like how do we react to those kinds
I think we need to, absolutely. Will you put that on one of the boards out there? Great. That's a good, very good issue for us to start thinking about, yeah. So if there aren't any more questions, we're going to ask you to head out into the lobby, have a little bit of coffee, and visit our boards. Please give us some input. We've got, as I said, those questions for you on the right-hand side there, and we're really interested in what you have to tell us. So thank you again for coming.